And we are back. Welcome to No Direction Beyond, the Starfinder news reviews and interviews podcast. I am Vanessa Hoskins.
I'm Alexander Agunas, the Everyman Gamer.
I'm James, and I write Code Switch.
And joining us today for the first time as an official No Direction host, I have the pleasure to introduce a man who needs no introduction, Owen Casey Stevens.
Hi, folks. I'm delighted to be here on No Direction. Obviously, I have been here before, but not hosting, so I very much appreciated the invitation, and I'm looking forward to talking about other people's projects eventually, but not today, obviously, because today, what do we have today?
Well, today we are going to be looking at a fabulous book, the Character Operations Manual, which is changing the entire balance of Starfinder. Now, today it's really important to note that this is not a review. If it was, it would be an extremely biased review because Owen, Alex, and myself all got an opportunity to work on this fine book. So unless you all want to hear James babble on for the next hour as we all nod or shake our heads as we agree or disagree with what he has to say, instead we're just going to do a breakdown. What's that?
I said we would consistently disagree with him.
Yes. Also, we would correct him every 5 seconds. Rules wrong.
I know. Also, that's how my wife deals with an hour of that.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get down to it. Alex, can you break it down? What are we looking at in this book?
Got it. How much of this do you? How much do you want me to go over? Because this book has a lot. Like, should I go chapter by chapter?
Just give us
I just dump the whole thing?
Just a nice overview.
Okay. Well, I'm preparing for this wonderful breakdown was to actually do the breakdown. So I have tons of numbers. Great. There's stuff for literally everybody in this book. If you like themes, there are 7 themes in this book over about 8 pages of general description. The book has 10 archetypes, infinite racial traits for not only all 7 of the core races, but also the legacy races that are found in the back of the Starfinder core rulebook from dwarf to halfling. Mm-hmm. You'll find alternate class features and additional class feature choices for the envoy, the mechanic, the mystic, the operative, the soldier, the technomancer. All of those take about 4 pages each, so you're looking at a really hefty 28 pages of content for all of the old classes. Most of them feature about 2 to 4 alternate class features. Envoys get 12 improvisations and 9 expertise towns. Mm-hmm. Mechanics get tricks. Mystics get connections. Operatives get tons of stuff.
All right, cool.
You also, of course, have the 4 new classes. You have 2 new...
Sorry, how many new classes?
How many?
3 new classes. Thank you, Owen.
I thought there was one that snuck in on me. I was like looking through my table of contents here going, I don't see... Where's the 4th class? Is the table of contents a class? Can I play this?
I'm sorry. It's got 3 new classes. My brain is on the Pathfinder playtest. It's got 3 new classes. It's got 2 starship roles, 25 downtime activities, which are cool things you can do outside of combat. It also has 71 feats over 8 pages, 5 pages. Yeah, 5 pages of equipment that include 46 new weapons, 14 shields, 6 serums, 6 medicinals, 4
so
poisons.
A bunch of new equipment, pages of equipment.
Yeah, and it's also got 11 pages of spells that consist of 62 brand new spells, as well as a 3-page spread that just tells you every single Witch Warper spell from every book that's ever come out. Like, it's mind-boggling how much content is in a book that is literally only this big.
Yeah, I know. They just really packed it in there.
I just crammed it right in there.
Crammed it right in there. And a bunch of great art too, I think, really featuring those 3 new iconics that we've got, to make sure that we've got a little bit of everything. I mean, look at that. It's just beautiful. Jumping right in, let's start breaking down theme and race.
All right, James, do you want to take it first?
Well, as you go through the, wow, I was not expecting to go first. Thanks. Yep. No, it's fine. This is one of my sections that I like the most because when I opened up the book, I saw a bunch of stuff for androids because I just love androids, and there's such a narrow kind of like personal view, because in a lot of, especially media from the 80s, androids are basically evil robots.
Mhm.
So there's things that can change that if you're looking at like the alternate racial traits.
Mm.
As far as the themes, there's a couple things that might fit in with the characters that you might be making. None of them really piqued my interest, but that's because they're me. But you have stuff like law officer, which is like generic steward kind of, noble scion, which I'm sure everybody will love, and you'll love everybody at your table that plays one.
It's such a great theme because it's literally the noble scion prestige class from Pathfinder, but in a really easy to digest theme that doesn't take anything cool away from you. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And when we were working on that, one of the things that Rob McCurry, who's the creative director for Starfinder, said was if we were going to have a noble scion, we also had to have the street rat.
Mhm.
So every time we were looking at those, he was like, if we do the cream of the crop class or theme, if we say this is what it's like to be at the top, we have to also describe what it's like to be at the bottom, or else it doesn't mean anything. So we want to vary from the baseline in both directions.
Definitely. I think the themes, like the themes of the topics they hit are really cool because they're very like, they're things that you would expect players would want to make their characters, but they're not covered in the core rulebook. One of my favorite pieces of art in this book is the from the athlete theme. Athlete is super cool because it's one of the first themes we've seen that actually gives you a choice of which ability score you're going to get. Also, this Vesk is wearing Nikes, and I love it. Look at these Nikes.
Those are gross Yeezys.
Oh my god.
I mean,
we actually had a theme in one of the adventure paths that gave you a choice of what bonus you got to it. So that's where that ground was broken. But one of the things we wanted to do for the character operation, and I'm periodically going to be just jumping in and telling you thought processes behind things because I actually don't have a preview copy of this book. So I can't point at anything specific because I didn't join the network in time to get a preview copy. And I'm sure I will get a contributor copy, but I don't have it yet. So one of the things we really wanted to do that was very important to me when I was outlining this was take things that we had already done in a straightforward, I don't want to say boring, but a straightforward fashion and show what kind of twists we can put on those things. And I'll go into that a little bit more when we get to archetypes, because we've done some stuff with archetypes here that we'd not done before. But one of the things we really wanted to hit with themes was saying, look, a theme does not have to be tied to just one ability score. Here's a way that you can have themes that are more flexible than that. And Athlete was an excellent example of that. And there was a long conversation about whether we were going to have Constitution-based athletes or not. Because at one time the thought was you would just have strength-based athletes and dex-based athletes, because either you are throwing a discus or you are lifting weights. But there are some people that felt very, very strongly that you've got marathon runners and distance swimmers. And when you start to get into alien athletics, right, for all we know, there are Sheeran 1 foot standing contests where the question is, you know, what's the world record for balancing on just a single pseudoped?
Kitsune Warlock says competitive eaters, which seems like that would be Constitution as well.
Yeah, totally. That's an excellent example, and I that's actually something where I could see Sheerans get super excited about competitive eating. Right? You never know what you're going to eat. It's a different thing each time.
Yeah, definitely. Look at that.
Yeah, the Sensate kind of is also the Sensate cooks for the competitive eaters. He goes to dives, drive-ins, and run down space station bars. But we really wanted to take some things and how they can be done differently, both so that if GMs want to write some of the stuff for their home campaigns, because we're always wanted to give you tools, we can say, look, this is how it's done, but also so that freelancers, and for that matter, third-party publishers, could look at these things and say, oh, that's how they're doing this thing. And now when Paizo has a freelancer and they say, hey, pitch us a theme, the freelancer knows, well, if I really want to do a theme that's maybe sort of like a biohacker and the theme has an instinctive version and a studious version, I can pitch that they have these two different things they can go for. So that's part of trying to build the environment of the game through the character operations manual.
Fantastic.
Establishing precedent is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also I actually like the outlaw officer you had mentioned, because just having a steward is like, well, now you're a member of the stewards. And like, what if you're just on Akaton and you're the local sheriff and that was your job until, you became a Starfinder because Abadar Corps came and bought your town and now they have their own, their own law enforcement. So what am I going to do? I don't know. I guess I'll join the society. So I kind of like that there's a generic law officer there for folks who Like I know Ryan a lot of time when he's playing, if the flavor encroaches too much on his idea of what the character is, he will not play that option. So I think it's good for those folks.
Yeah, and kind of the closest we had before this, other than Steward, was the bounty hunter, right? Which had some of the right skill set. And I'm totally good with someone saying, hey, my character is a ex-law officer, and I took the bounty hunter theme because I was maybe part of the fugitive rescue unit, right? Whatever.
Right.
But there are some very broad themes, and we sat the Starfinder team down in a room, and we all wrote every single theme we could think of in a brainstorm. And that's a there are no bad ideas kind of brainstorm. But then you go back and you say, okay, if you could only pick 5 of these, which 5 would you want to see? And law officer is one of the ones that came up a lot, that a lot of the team thought it was a good idea to have that as a theme.
You want to encourage people to follow the law, not necessarily be a bunch of murder bandits.
And I think that another thing that this book does well, moving on to the other part of the chapter with all these race options, is that it really lets us sort of explore things. Like the android was mentioned, what it means to be an android. And they're very technological, like, I want to not just be a synthetic artificial humanoid. It's like, I'm kind of a robot. Like, let's just be real here. And there's a lot of things that really lean into that. And I think that's fantastic.
I had a lot of fun writing the android, definitely.
Oh, you wrote the android. Oh, okay.
He wrote the android. Yep, he did. And there were a couple things that when he turned them over, my first thought was, I am absolutely not allowing this. Like the Go-Go Gadget arm extenders came very close to getting cut just on that's too silly. But as I read the rules, I'm like, no, this is actually balanced. I could see doing that. Okay, we'll run this through the process and see what people think. My favorite part of the android is that you can now have an android that is a android Isoki, or an android that is in the shape of a Besk, as opposed to them all being basically human.
Yeah.
That was something that was really fun for me. I know when I pitched the section, I was like, I'll do every single alien that's ever been printed. And you were like, word count.
No,
you very much will not. But we picked some core ones and some popular ones.
There's a lot. And I think you guys still have a lot of the words for that. I mean, obviously not you guys, but I think Paizo still has a bunch of them if they wanted to use them. I'm sorry, Owen.
No. I walked out from Paizo. Seemed like a good idea at the time, under my own terms. They've been very kind. I've gotten to work for them since. So that is not a sore point.
Okay, good.
And I'm very happy with the people who are going forward with Starfinder, and I look forward to seeing what they do with it. I now get to pick up a Starfinder book someday, not yet, but someday soon, that I will not have had to outline and worry about and work over and spend late nights on. So I'm going to get to enjoy the game in a way that it's hard to do when you're working on it.
So
get some space from your hobby.
Would you guys make fun of me if I told you that I wrote something in the Android section for James?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I
totally would.
I wrote the companion alternate ability adjustments because I knew that James would want to play a pretty android.
You know, I actually think that's really smart.
Thank you.
Because a lot of the race, like when people come together to put a class race combo, a lot of time there's like metagame and power gaming motives behind it. And so it becomes really frustrating when you want to do something like, well, what if, you want to play this android that was designed to be really charismatic, really social. It just doesn't work with the ability adjustments. It makes it very, very difficult. And so something like this really gives you an opportunity not only to play that style, but also get out of that power gaming mentality. Now that there's some alternate ability adjustments for some of these core races, you can say, well, I want to play a strong, kick butt halfling. Well, that's in here. You don't just have to be the dexterous halfling. So I think that's excellent.
That's the same reason, for example, why we decided that small and medium creatures all use the same weaponry, right? Because if what you want is to be a gnome knight or a gnome mercenary with a heavy machine gun, we don't want to penalize your fun by saying, well, you picked a suboptimal choice, so you just can't do that.
Right.
It's the same reason why themes give you a +1 to an ability score, right? That is enough that if you put it someplace where you only had like a 12 and that bumps you to 13, you can now maybe qualify for a feat you couldn't qualify for, but it doesn't change your bonus, which means that you are not, by picking a theme, saying, well, I'm going to be consistently worse at these core functions of my class.
Right.
And we see that sort of opening up this design space just for characters throughout. Humans are humans. There's a lot of great stuff in there about like, were you a human that grew up in low gravity or high gravity? How did that affect you? I think one of my favorite things actually is the Lashuntas, because in super classic Pathfinder, where they came from, the different types of them were associated really strongly with male and female, and that was sort of problematic. So now they said, well, it doesn't really matter. It's like, are you a Demaya or a, Lashunta or whatever? Like, how did you evolve? And when you have enough technology, you can do it however you want. This throws some extra legacies in there, some extra options to say, wait, there's not just two types. Like, we are dimorphic across a bunch of different bands, and there's even a really great feminine-looking Lashunta that is kicking butt and looks a little bit beefier instead of just like, oh, I'm feminine, so I'm slender and thin. It's like, no, we're stocky, we're built, we got it.
She's like, no, I'm gonna take this metal boot and cram it right up whatever your alien anatomy calls butt. It's great.
And I love myself a good punch girl character, so this art is just, it's so inspiring.
It's super good.
Yeah, one of the things that was important to me about the racials, I wish I could say species stuff, but it's race in the book. One of the things that's important to me about the race stuff was we got that one wrong. I really wanted, when we're talking about the different options, to make it clear that we don't think that where you're born defines everything about who you become. Right? We want there to be this option to embrace the variety that exists in any species. I mean, just look at dogs, right? Chihuahuas and Great Danes do not look like they are part of the same species. So variety can go all sorts of places, but also you never know, you're playing characters who can arguably be outliers, and we don't want to tell you what outlier is too far. We want the players and the GM to be able to make a world and say, hey, this is my character, this is what I want to do. And I think that's an important theme to hit when we're talking about the various options that we put in this section of the game.
I also like that even though all the core races get, a nice 2-page spread, you've even got some of these legacy races, gnomes, half-elves, and whatnot, get a nice 1-page spread, also with alternate racial traits, often with alternate feats or options for various classes. And I think that's really great as well, because it also shows how these different races, these different fantasy races have adapted to life in space. A lot of them are centered around that. Like, wait, they actually went to this other planet and grew up here, so they have a different set of traits. And I think that's really cool.
One thing that I really like about some of the legacy races is that you look at the content that some of those races get, and it looks very different from the stuff that the core ones do, in the sense that most of the core races have like 2 or 3 different ability adjustments compared to the legacy races, which only have 1. And the core races also usually have like 2 or 3 alternate racial traits, but like you look at dwarves and elves, they have 6. Like they have so many more than any of the core ones, and it makes it feel like, oh, they might not have as many of these crazy tricks and abilities, but like they've been around for so long that there are just so much more variety in what a dwarf is and what an elf is, and that feels really cool when you look at it, because they don't feel like short versions of the previous entries. They feel like they have their own character, and almost like their brevity contributes to the fact that they're rarer, but what they do focus on says more about them.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the flavor that's infused in all of these really makes it exciting to look and be like, I want to play a steel skin half orc. Like, that just sounds super cool. And as you read these, it's I don't know, I think it's really character inspiring, and I like the way that they've added in these alternate traits and options for character building. Again, just to free up more choices, right? If I want to play that punch girl character, but I always wanted to do it with a halfling, it's kind of tough, because now I'm stuck with, well, how do I do unarmed strikes but with dex base, and there's really no good way to do that. Well, now I can be like, you know what? I got strength and constitution. I'm good.
I love that the half orc in this section is basically half orc Zarya. It's great. She's strong like the mountain.
I mean, Veskard was just Space Russia, right? Basically.
I mean, kind of.
I feel like it. I like it. Squidbillies are from the same place, roughly, so I'm fine with that. God, I love you, Squidbillies.
Oh, let's go to classes before I die from James's joke.
Yes, let's definitely go to classes. So our next section is classes. Obviously, we're going to be looking at the 3 new classes and breaking those down. I know we've talked about them on the show before, so we're not going to spend a ton of time, but we do want to look at what changed from the playtest to live and how that might change some of your character builds that you're looking at from test characters in society and with home games and such.
Can I do Biohacker because of Shivi? Because I really want to talk about Biohacker.
You know what?
Can I do Vanguard because it's the only one I played in playtest?
Sure, you got Vanguard. Biohackers first. Tell us what changed with Biohacker. What's better? What's worse? What do you think is really working for it?
So, one thing that's great about Biohacker, Starfinder design team solved the problem of being int-based being so much better than being wisdom-based. And the answer is brilliant. The answer is just restrict what everybody gets from their ability score. If you're wisdom-based, you just get 2 ranks, and you get like your wisdom to a whole bunch of int skills instead of your intelligence. But that means that like you don't have to worry about the fact that like intelligence is adding like intelligence to will saves and has all of these other benefits on top of already having a high int. So by controlling it, you let them feel different and the choice is meaningful, but it's not gapped, because one thing we saw in the playtest is that going intelligence was just so much better than going wisdom.
The other thing that we got from the playtest, by the way, was that it made for any int-based character of any class was better if they had 1 level of biohacker. So if you were going to do a mechanic, take 1 level of biohacker and then go mechanic, and that made you a better mechanic than a straight mechanic.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. I can just imagine all those operatives with max int. Oh.
Exactly.
One of the things that is also really cool is that they took the scanner, the bioscanner ability, and they changed it into entire laboratory. So you carry a micro lab with you, and it has many of the same benefits, but one of the major differences is that you can actually use your micro laboratory to attune to a limited number of creatures. I believe it's 4. Is that right, Owen?
I don't have a preview copy, remember? So you're asking me
that's
to spout off something I would have memorized in June. So yeah, it's a limited number. It is supposed to be enough to cover your party of player characters.
I believe
3
it's
plus your
scales.
key, 3 plus your key ability score.
There you go.
And I used your break to quickly check the book. So you have you
even if you're starting with a +2, that's 5, which that's not bad.
And but what makes it so cool is that you get a number of benefits for having people in your party, and the biggest one is that if you have a injection ranged weapon and you shoot your biohacks or any injection at a ally and you put them in this group, it automatically hits them. There's no more having to roll attack rolls. There's no more like worrying about like, oh, they're flat-footed. Like, no, you just hit your friends. You put the homing dart into the gun and you shoot it, and oh, medicine.
That's excellent. Yeah, I do like that they made that significantly more consistent and reliable. So you're not trying to decide, well, do I run up and inject them, or can I just shoot them from here? It's like, no, just do your job from the back line where you belong.
That was another really clear piece of feedback from the playtest. When we originally designed the biohacker, we were thinking, so we'll let you buff people who are adjacent to you without having to make an attack roll. But if they're at range, there's a chance you could miss. So to us, you were the adjacent melee buffer who also had the option to risk doing something at range. And the universal feedback we got from everybody that bothered to mention on that one was the envoy doesn't have to have a chance to miss when he buffs someone. The mystic can cast a spell. They have no chance of missing. Why is my buffing, when that is one of the focuses of this class, so much worse than everyone else? And there's this risk when you're a game designer of saying, this is balanced and therefore correct, as opposed to this is fun and therefore people want to play it. Balance is crucial, but you can perfectly well create a balanced design that people hate. So we worked really hard to figure out a way to have what people wanted to be fun, and still have the class not be something where someone goes, well, there's no point in playing anything from the core rulebook anymore, which, I mean, that's a concern, right? When you add classes and you're carving out new design space, there's always this risk that you will just make something that's flat superior to what's gone on before, and we didn't want to do that.
Right.
Nice. So one thing that you said, Vanessa, is reliability. And I think that is a major theme of the improvements on the biohacker from the original to the new one. Because one of the new things the biohacker has is minor biohacks. A minor biohack is a special ability where like the major ones are like, I put this major debilitating penalty on you and you are a terrible monster now. And like the minor ones are like much smaller like things, but you have an unlimited number of them. So the biohacker can always biohack. They just have a limited number of their best biohacks.
Yeah, and I think
I
that's
think,
cool
like,
too, because then you're not just limited to like I can kind of biohack a little bit every once in a while.
yeah. And it's super great, and I am so excited for that. They another thing that they did that I think is wonderful is that the original biohacker in the playtest didn't have a insight bonus to skills of its best skills,
Mhm.
and the new biohacker does get that same scaling bonus that the operative and the mechanic and basically every other non-envoy skill character gets. But even the envoy kind of gets it because they have that. And law of averages means that it's about the same, sometimes higher, sometimes lower.
Sure.
I know you want to talk about this one, Owen, because we fought about this one for a bit.
Okay.
As a designer, I happen to know that we did not, when we were creating the Starfinder core rulebook, intend to suggest that every class that does anything with skills will have scaling bonuses to skills, right? That was not something that we had in mind. So when we were doing this, I was like, look, if you want those bonuses, you've got plenty of opportunities to take feats. You can slap those on there.
Mhm.
You're going to be better at these skills because you can do things with these skills that other people just flat can't do. Remember how I talked about you can have something be balanced but not be fun?
Mhm.
Again, we thought it was really super important that we put these things out there and we play test them and we get feedback from the environment. And people said it's not fun that the envoy is a better medic than my biohacker just for the baseline stuff.
Mhm.
And a lot of them said, I don't understand why can I do these specialized things, but I can't do the normal things better.
Easier, yeah.
And I could argue with people about, hey, just because you are a brain surgeon doesn't mean that you are better at setting a broken bone, but I can't leap into the home of every person playing this game and have that argument. So
please
this
don't
was
try
just a
to do
place
that.
where
You will definitely get arrested at some point.
and there could be a button, right? If you wish to argue with the designer, press this button, and then I am invited to leap into your home.
Oh, well, there you go.
Instead, we have the internet. But this was a case where what I thought was better design was just clearly not what the public wanted. And I don't have any interest in presenting a beautiful, perfect crystal of a game that can't be broken that no one wants to play.
Mhm.
So I had repeatedly told Alex that there was no need to put in those bonuses. There's no need to put in those bonuses. And Alex was like, but it doesn't make sense. And then everyone agreed with Alex. So we changed what we were doing.
Yeah, because people are still going to look at those baseline numbers and say, well, what's my
Absolutely.
max bonus at this level with this build? Oh, that's higher. It must be better.
And that's part of what a game environment is, right? Is
Mhm.
what are people looking at? What do people take as being the things that help define reality? So
Mhm. Right. Any
The
last
best-
thoughts on the biohacker?
No, I think that it's really good. If you look at the list of the biohacker talent based things, the field, not the fields of study, the theorems.
The
There we
theorems.
go.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same. A lot of them have been polished, but if you the ones from the playtest pretty much all made it in a equally good or superior form. So it's a good class. There's lots of choice. It's very easy to decide whether you want to be a medic or like a mad scientist, and you could do it whether you're wisdom or intelligence. Wisdom is a little bit better at being mad sciencey, and int is a little bit better at being like medicy, but it's not like you're not gonna feel like you have to do one or the other. There are some benefits and drawbacks to both. It's great.
Okay.
It's a great fun class, but that's all I have to say about that. How about you, James?
I was just looking in the playtest documents because I realized that some of the aspects were cut from the playtest, and it was the one that I can't pronounce, and I was just trying to figure out the other one. Begins with an A. A dibiotic. And inevitable. Those two were cut, but otherwise the features from the playtest, at least as far as like the aspects that you choose, are pretty similar.
Mhm.
None of them still do grappling, which is okay. I understand why you wouldn't want that to get out of control. Because man, some people are really good at it now.
Yeah.
Your Vanguard class, it's con based, so hit points equals actions. The big thing that they changed from the playtest about this is there's a lot more ways to get points into your entropy pool, which is your like pool of resources to do stuff with. As
So many
class.
more ways.
And some of them including like letting your teammates get hit and like saying, hey, take this punch. And there's a lot of things that it triggers on, like I believe at a lower threshold. Because or it might be a similar threshold, but basically, especially at low levels, when you take damage, you'll get entropy points.
Mhm.
And there's more way to
Gotcha.
use them. You can use them to amp up damage on attacks. You can use them to go faster, and also just having them gives you a bonus
Yeah.
to your armor class.
What's
So
nice
what's-
is because they've added so many rules, there's a nice bullet point list in there that just goes over like, here are all the different ways you can get points. So it's really
I
easy to
love
look up.
bulleted lists. Bulleted lists are the best.
Because
Yeah,
you're
there's
gonna
like
say you're
7.
gonna say things like, well, I'm Vanguard slash one of the things I was thinking, like, I'm a Vanguard Solarian, why not? And I have that ability that lets me charge as a standard action. That's cool. Can I still get an entry point? Nope. It even says if you take a full action to charge, you gain 1 EP. Nice and easy to find, easy to figure out your rule stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
including the entropic strike, where it goes over like, hey, you don't need to do anything additional to get benefits out of it. You can use it on attacks of opportunity.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly it's got to be the full action because you need the entropic decay of your armor class from charging in order to get your entropy points.
Right. Yes. Absolutely.
Got to get the scuzz on you before you hit the foe. Got to get all scuzzed up.
Exactly.
Uh,
One
and
thing that I
it's-
noticed is that they dropped the hit points though.
Yep.
So Vanguard originally had the highest hit points per level, and they were con based, and they just had a massive amount of hit points that said, "Please hit me, I can take it." And now that's partially gone, which is a little disappointing.
Well, it turns out from the playtest that given that we give them lots of good armor class options, lots of good mitigating damage options, and they're con based, that they were prior to this unkillable. That just they were
no.
they were too tough. And we got that feedback, and so we sat down and we ran some scenarios in house, and we just determined being a con based class already means you're going to have more points than much of anyone else.
Mhm.
And we have given you a lot of defenses, and those things all stacked together
Yeah.
just were too much.
Yeah. This is probably more where it needs to be, but I know that for me, I just enjoyed having that massive pool of hit points, but I'm also a Pathfinder Kineticist player. So
Well, kineticists don't have mitigate, and half of their class features aren't reduce the damage that you take from everything from AoEs to friendly fire to
Also,
what other
they're-
people happens.
Their
Well,
most
they-
important class feature is burn my hit
Burn.
points, please.
well, I was gonna say, yeah, please take away my hit points.
Please, Snake, hurt
I
me.
mean, they do have a chance to mitigate crits, but I do enjoy when the GM goes, "Ooh, I crit you and did almost 100 damage. I'm really sorry I killed you." And you're like, "No, I'm still conscious. I'm fine." And they're like, "Wait, what?" Like, yeah, I'm conscious. I got like 170 hit points. Don't worry about it.
How many
You've never
times
played
did it
with Mike
happen in
Barnett.
Yuletide Terror?
Several times where you do a lot of damage, and I'm like, "No, I'm fine."
And I'd be like,
Barely
just,
scratched
that was the
paint.
face.
Yes. That was
I
the
didn't
thing.
even rip the seams.
So no one has touched on what to me is the most important change about the Vanguard.
Oh,
Please.
please do tell.
Well, so in the playtest, you could only get the properties of melee weapons to your fusion if they were within 2 levels of your level.
Mm-hmm.
So I could not use older melee weapons to beef up what my entropic fist did.
Mhm.
And a lot of people hated that. But there is a balance concern here, right? We don't want a 15th level Vanguard to have 27 first level weapons, giving them a ridiculous array of things that they can access.
Mhm.
So what we have done as a compromise is that you can use lower level weapons, but you are restricted to the damage of that level for your entropic fist, because the weapon just can't live with channeling more entropic fist than that.
Right.
So you can have 27 first level weapons, but you're going to do first level entropic fist damage. But it also means if you need to and you're facing werewolves and you pick up a silver dagger off the ground, you can use it. You're just not going to get as much as if you had a maximized top level item with you.
Mhm.
It was a relatively simple fix, but it's something that really bothered a lot of people in the playtest. So we definitely wanted to address it, and I personally thought it was an elegant solution to the problem.
It sounds elegant.
No, I'm looking
Yeah.
through here, and correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a way to get, even just with your unarmed entropic attacks, to get a fusion on there, or at least special weapon rules?
There are ways to get certain special things added to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
I'm
entropic
looking-
enhancement at 5th level.
That's what it was, entropic enhancement. Yeah, because I remember, again, I want that. To me, I'm trying to make every class a monk. That's basically just where I go when I see a class. I'm like, how could this be a monk? Even in Starfinder, I just want everything to punch. And so I was really excited when I saw that. Oh yeah, there it is, entropic enhancement. Yeah, you just like, hey, if I want the force as an ability, which is by the way super
Yep.
cool, you're like, hey, at 5th level, I have the fourth force special property. I can punch ghosts.
Yep.
If only
Totally.
we had that to fight Jadura's nemesis.
It was. We really wanted the Vanguard to be able to be the class that people want something like a monk to take. And when I was first pitching, we pitched a number of classes internally, and I actually had a class I was calling the Juggernaut, and some of the concepts of that moved to the Vanguard. But I had a whole list of examples of what this class might look like in a science fantasy or modern setting. And so I was specifically talking about Fist of the North Star, which is post-apocalyptic and therefore science fiction. And for that matter, Battle Angel Alita has a specific cyborg martial art that she uses, and those were references because I don't want to just say it's a space monk. I wanted the people that were looking at this and considering it to see here is how that kind of I can punch a tank and dent the corner looks in science fantasy settings. So it's very much something we wanted you to be able to do. But if you'd look at the Vanguard and you wanted to instead be the guy that's wandering around with a batleth and a hover platform, we wanted those to be options too.
Very cool. I love it.
I could see any Warlock says you're already developed. This is actually a great time to mention that this show is recorded live in front of a Twitch audience. So if you'd like to join the conversation, you can join us at twitch.tv. We do No Direction Beyond about once a month, every 4 weeks. And we do our No Direction Prime show every other Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. And that's to cover all the Pathfinder stuff, if you are a fan of that game as well. So please come join us live, and you can ask questions and interact with us, and we love it.
We do.
No
Speaking of things we
Beyond's
love,
better.
how about Witchwap? How about, what was that?
No Direction's better. Go ahead, Alex. You can take Witchwapper.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, would someone else want to do it? Because I did Biohacker and James did Vanguard. If you want me to do
who's
Witchwap,
left?
I'll do it.
Well, there's
I'll
myself
do
for
it.
Owen, and Owen doesn't have a book.
I can talk about the most important change of the Witchwarper if we want to, because it's the thing that took the
Please.
longest.
Absolutely, yes.
I was going to say that there's probably a reality where each of us cover the Witchwarper.
There's almost certainly a reality. Okay. So the Witchwarper had this ability to alter reality around it, right? That was one of its core powers.
Yep.
And it could do that in addition to having just as much spellcasting as a mystic or a technomancer. And that meant that that core power couldn't be any more useful total, even when we are throwing in things like their ability to add paradigm shifts, could not be more powerful than everything a mystic or a technomancer gets beyond their spells.
Right.
And that just started to run into problems where people were saying, well, I don't use this at all at 1st level because all I can get is a smoke screen. I don't use this at 5th level. I really don't use this ability at all until 14th, 15th level. So we had this thing that was the core class feature that makes a Witchwarper difference that is thematically really cool, right? I'm pulling in elements from other realities and enforcing them on our own.
It's the sales pitch for the class. Like, that's
Yeah,
why
it
people
is.
play it.
People love that concept. And then if you can't use it, it's frustrating. So we changed those so that fueling that power requires you to sacrifice spell slots. And that means that this ability has a growing list of things you can do with it. As you go up in level, there are more and more powers you can apply to it. You can still modify those with paradigm shifts and such. But you are using your spell power, that same pool of energy, reality manipulating energy that gives you spells, is what allows you to use this power. And that means that instead of being the power being on top of your spells, it is a way to modify your spells. And that changes what our total power curve for that power is. So that if you are playing a Witchwarper, you can say, well, no matter what spells I know, I also have these other options I can swap out at any time. It's almost like being a wizard with just a few sorcerer spells that you can always swap out. My normal list, I can always swap out these elements, and they're mix and match. And you've got things that are instant, so I create an explosion and it's just there. But we also have these longer lasting effects like bad visibility or difficult terrain, and we say you can mix and combine these. So the difficult terrain can be, it's a sleet storm, so the difficult terrain applies to the air. People flying through the air here have to deal with difficult terrain, and that seemed to make people, when we tested that out on them, much happier with how their witch warper could adjust the world around them in a way that felt fun and interesting and unique without being, just totally overwriting everything.
I mean, when I build a Witch Warper, and I am, I'm going to focus on infinite worlds as the main thing I do, and my spells are going to be sort of like tertiary.
Yeah.
And I like it that way, because then I don't feel like they're just sitting over here being wasted. It's like, oh no, they're there, but they're going to fuel infinite worlds, but I also have some other options.
I
just
think...
because...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because to me, that's the most compelling part of this class is, hey, there's a reality in which they're doing construction on this part of the platform, and so it's all open and messed up. So sure, yeah, now it's that reality, and if you want to run over here, go ahead, but this bridge is out,
Yeah. One thing that I really like about it is that it encourages 3 different styles of play. The first one is the character who is going to mostly focus on their spells. They're going to pick spells that are best for them, and they use infinite worlds almost the same way that a Pathfinder First Edition cleric uses their ability to lose spells for healing. Like their focus is going to be on their actual spells, and then they're like, oh, if I need a paradigm shift, I'll throw it out. The alternative is the Witch Warper who plays themselves like a warlock in 5th edition, where they mostly just throw out this one power they have, this infinite worlds, and then occasionally they cast other spells. And then the third option is the in-between, someone who flexes between using all of these options, but it opens itself to a very diverse set of tools and abilities that you have at your disposal. I think it's a really smart paradigm to build the class on. But yeah, I think that it's interesting because like the Witch Warper, in terms of like the number of features it has, is so small, but because of how Infinite Worlds works, it's so deep. Like it is a really impressive class in my opinion.
It gives me the huge array of options that I want when I'm playing a spellcaster. Because I love spellcasters. I mean, I love a punch girl as much as anyone else for like one shots. But if I'm doing especially a long-term campaign, I like a spellcaster because I can really get to know them and their abilities. And I love the strategic opportunity it presents when you get to decide, do I want which of these 15 elements I can do right now, and how is that going to shape the next 3 rounds of this battle so that we'll win instead of lose. And I think the Witch Warper definitely sells that.
Definitely, I agree. Do you have any thoughts, James?
I like debuffs, and they're here. It's also something that the more I am exposed to them, the more things will click with me. I am bad at reading, so it takes me a while to figure out where stuff goes. So I've seen what this has done in playtest. I did not think that it was an unusable concept. I knew one or two people that really didn't like it, but I feel like its potential will be realized by somebody who's not me, and then I'll iterate it on it with what I usually do, which is just somebody that punches real good or debuffs things.
I mean, Mitsuko Hane just buffs people, and I think you did her really good. I think you kind of showed our lodge that the envoy was really good. Like our group went from saying, like before that we started doing PFS, that I wasn't part of this obviously, but I couldn't make it to the first month of society. Our local group started with the consensus that the envoy was not a good class, that nobody should play it. It wasn't strong. And then James built this buffing, stamina buffering envoy, and they went almost from 3 sessions from saying the envoy is unplayable to the envoy is mandatory.
There's this important distinction that we designed Starfinder to encourage people to play in groups. So an envoy by themselves with no one around is not as effective as an operative or a soldier. An envoy with 3 or 4 friends is plenty useful compared to an operative with 3 or 4 friends or a soldier with 3 or 4 friends.
It's really good.
Just keep telling me to get them, James. I'll do it.
In a recent adventure I was working on, one of the combats is your boss type character is an envoy, and there's 2 or 3 frontliners with them, and by themselves they're fine. But with those envoy powers, it's just okay, now we're going to see what I can do. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, he doesn't really do anything. You know, BBEG becomes like, oh no, that's a big threat. Because if you can take him down, then the rest of the mooks are easy.
Yeah.
Envoys are they're real good.
So good. So good.
Speaking of envoys, that is the first core class that got some new features here in the next section of this chapter.
It is.
Yeah, they got one that's combat expertise, which when I very first read it, went, oh no, it's back. It's haunting me. My dreams.
I'm sorry, James. I didn't mean to traumatize you.
That's okay. So it's an ability that allows you to basically get extra damage based on your expertise by being really good at skills.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of like another class's feature, but it replaces some of your own utility. So, Alex, you want to talk about it more? I think you wrote it or something, right?
I did. I wrote actually this entire next couple sections. I think I wrote 5 out of the 7 of them.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I was on class detail with this book. So
Okay.
So one of the things that envoys can do with this book is you can't actually be a bard, but you can get pretty close. You get a limited number with magical expertise. You get a limited number of spell slots that work kind of like mystic spells. You only go up to 4th level, and you get them at a delayed progression, but you keep most of what makes you an envoy. So you are an envoy with cool improvisations with magic. So it's a really cool option if you're somebody who likes to manage resources.
Yeah.
Another cool thing you get is a ability that lets you basically be better at restoring hit points and stamina points. It's called motivational expertise.
Cool.
So like if you want to play that, the core envoy is really focused towards being like the leader, the Princess Leia, the general like talky person of the group. And this one's like, hey, medicine is on their skill list. You can expertise that. Why don't we expand on that a little?
Sure.
You know, you say that that's about being medicine, but I'll be honest with you. To me, that is the Sarah Connor in Terminator, the original Terminator moment where she grabs Reese and says, "On your feet, soldier." And she just says it with such command that this guy who's bleeding and dead on the ground can get up and run because Sarah Connor told him to get up and run. That is the moment to me that the character Sarah Connor becomes the person that entire series should and needs to be about, right?
Yeah.
Yes, John Connor is the savior, but that's because of what his mother taught him. And if you've watched Dark Fate, you sort of can understand why I feel like Sarah Connor is the military envoy, and she's dangerous, but she's better when she has people around her.
Yeah.
You gave
definitely.
Cryptwalker 76 goosebumps, by the way.
You are very welcome.
And now the next option can't give you goosebumps, but it can give you gooses and dogs and cats and aliens. It's polymorphic disguise. You can be an envoy who shapeshifts. So obviously the new season of She-Ra wasn't out when I wrote this, but I think like literally when I think of this, I think of the I can't think of what his name is, but it's the really cool androgynous character in the new season.
Their name is Double Trouble.
Yeah, they're Double Trouble. They are super cool, and that is exactly what this is. You can be someone who is just so good at like getting into the role of other people that you literally change form. It's great.
Like Viggo Mortensen.
Well, what's fantastic, because I actually had a concept for this. There's a bunch of cybernetics and BioWare and stuff out there that lets you do just that anyway. That combined with polymorphic disguise, and yeah, you can literally be the I just get to be whoever I want character, which is really fun.
Yes, and so then from there, it literally just goes into a whole bunch of expertise talents and envoy improvisations. There's a whole bunch of different things for like different types. There's a lot of combat abilities. There's a lot of just generally being cool at stuff. There's also a ton of just a variety of expertise talents for a whole bunch of different skills.
Yeah, and I also like that some of them definitely call out things like this is language dependent, this is mind affecting, this one's not. So you can quickly figure out like, oh, I don't want too many language dependent ones, or something like that. I like that. That's really helpful.
One of my favorite ones that's in this is like it's such a weird envoy power, but it's so cool. It's called fusion resonance.
Okay.
Where you're just like, hey, I have this weapon fusion. Why don't you borrow this for a little bit? And it's like, whoa, wait, why is Mitsuko Hane singing giving me like gun better?
The power is yours now. Don't kill anybody. The only fusion on that's merciful and glamored.
It was important when we're looking at all of these classes. in comm, especially from my point of view, to reinforce that we are doing not a hard science fiction or even a soft science fiction setting, but a science fantasy setting. And magic is part of that setting. And to me, it just makes sense, much like we've got the fighting style for soldiers in the core rulebook, where you're a soldier who's learned magic as a weapon. Every class that is not a spellcasting class ought to have some sort of option that is, hey, it turns out in the Starfinder universe, magic is one of the powerful forces out there, and you've spent some time studying it. So that was one of the reasons why we did things like learn a few spells or learn some shape-shifting magic. And I think that thematically, as you guys just noted, there are some characters out there in fiction that match these archetypes, these tropes really well. They're popular for a reason, and we want people to be able to play with them.
Speaking of things that people want to play with, Vanessa.
That's right. The next up is the mechanic, which James has one, and I am dying to hear your thoughts on this. Specifically, that they have a new prototype they can do called the experimental armor prototype.
Yeah, the experimental armor prototype basically lets you Iron Man and be Iron Man and Iron Man.
And Iron Man things.
Which is what you'd like. Mechanics were all before just. God, this is a really almost obscure reference, but there's an anime called Odd No Zero where somebody dies and literally half their brain gets replaced with a computer, and it's basically an exocortex. Either doing something like that or building a robot. And now you get to build other things like a weapon or a suit of armor. So the suit of armor abilities are pretty. It allows you to basically upgrade and scale your armor as you go, which is a really undervalued, I think, trait when you think about it in Starfinder because of the way or how you get money. Because Starfinder, usually every level or two, you get enough money for one more big purchase.
Right.
So sometimes you end up 2 or 3 or 5 levels, Chaplain, before getting new armor or a new weapon that makes you more able to keep up with everybody else. So this helps with that. You can also apply new things to that armor too. So
yeah, I think it's really great because I know for a lot of my characters that are reliant on weapons and armor, what I try to do is basically do every 3 levels. So every 3 level, I'm getting a brand new shiny weapon. Every 3 levels, I'm getting a brand new shiny armor, and every 3 levels, I'm getting other gear like augmentations and stuff that's going to help me be more diverse or fix a weakness. And I think that by being able to take one of those things and say, you know what, this is experimental, you're using this all the time, that's fine, really frees up a lot of your resources to do some other potentially very interesting things with them.
You spend all that money on armor upgrades for your weapon. It's the truth.
I mean,
or not your weapon, for your armor. Wow, I'm bad, guys.
Wow, someone needs some sleep.
Yeah, so about 4 people on the internet want to know, James, is Cliff going to take this option?
Hey, I'm one of them.
I still have time to make a decision, don't I?
You do,
No.
yes. And for those of you, we're obviously referring to Stellar, our Starfinder Actual Play podcast. I've been getting some questions about, hey, when is this going to start up again? Just to let everyone know, we've got some internal scheduling issues that we're still trying to deal with. And once we get those smoothed out, you'll see regular releases again. So don't worry, we haven't given up on Stellar. It's just on a bit of a hiatus, so.
I still have my notes for it, like literally right here on my desk.
Oh, good. Okay.
Honestly, it's not as bad as Steven Universe's worst hiatus, so we're fine.
Okay, good. If that's the bar I'm looking for.
I was about to say let's not start making that the bar that we're trying to be.
No, I want to get new episodes out there soon. It's just a matter of folks have some things going on in their lives that we got to schedule around, and that's fine. We totally understand that. I would rather get the entire cast involved with really great episodes rather than have to mix and match or do something like that. So. So anyway, now that you've had time to think about it, James, are you leaning toward the experimental armor prototype, or do you like your third-party option that you've been using?
As of right now, I like my third-party option because I'm just a little more knowledgeable about it. We've had a lot of books to read really quickly between Pathfinder and Starfinder.
It's true. There's been a lot of new stuff to look at.
There is.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit behind the curve on theory crafting of what I think would be good. Also, there's a lot of mechanic tricks also in this as well. So, got to think about.
I will tell you that I am a huge powered armor fan just in general, and I developed that section, and for that matter, I ordered that section. So, if it's not a good, interesting, fun, effective choice, I did something wrong.
I'm sure it will be. I just need more time to look at it.
Awesome.
Moving on, the next thing we've got that has some fantastic things to look at is the Mystic. One thing I will say that I saw in here, and I'll be honest, I haven't read through word for word all of these powers. I've just been sort of picking and cherry
This is
picking.
what Vanessa saw. That's what she saw. It's Punch Girl. That's what she wanted.
I saw what. Hold on, I can pull it up on the big screen here. There she is. Oh, this got my attention. I'm like, wait, a mystic who punches things? Okay, this I gotta see.
Oh my god, she looks like Domino from Deadpool.
She does.
She does. She really does.
Gee, I wonder why that is.
Huh.
But one thing that I thought was really cool actually wasn't the Wrecking Fist epiphanies. So mystics can get these things called epiphanies that instead of getting a connection power, you can choose an epiphany instead. Super cool. Because you're not picking out an entire class feature. You're like, I don't really love this particular one. I'm going to pick this instead. Well, Wrecking Fist is one. That's really cool. That's the improved unarmed strike bonus feat one. Gives you all sorts of bonuses. Super cool. The one that actually got me super excited isn't that one, surprisingly enough. The one that got me excited is Solar Connection. You forged a solar connection with the cosmos, yada yada. You gain a solar weapon, like a solar manifestation ability.
That's so cool. I love that one when I came across it.
And the other thing that I love is it says if you have levels in both classes, you add them together to determine the effectiveness of your solar weapon. This is one of the, bar none, biggest deterrents to being able to multi-class a Solarian into anything else. So now, if you want to play your definitely not a Jedi character that is more like a definitely not a Jedi counselor who has lots more mysticky powers and not just whacks things with a laser sword, you can do it with Solar Connection. I got my laser sword, I'm okay at it, and I also got cool powers. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfect example of the kind of thing I was talking about where we wanted to show people examples of things you can do with Starfinder. So, first of all, the epiphanies are an example of saying, hey, archetypes aren't the only ways to swap out class features. And that's important because if, for example, a GM wants to create a new order of battle mystics, and they're like, well, I want all my battle mystics to have this one ability because it's important for the campaign, but they may not all have the same connection, then he can say, oh, well, then it's an epiphany. But also the Solar Connection is specifically saying, look, it's okay to say, hey, these two classes can stack for purpose of this Solarian weapon. If that's cool, if that's something you want to do to create a whole new set of options for players, here's a way to do it. And this is a example of going forward with that.
Right. And the thing is, before, there are so many great high-level abilities in the classes that multi-classing was basically impossible unless you were a blitz soldier for one level. But like true multi-classing, where I'm basically balanced, is such a fun thing that I love to do in a lot of different D20 type systems, that it was really frustrating for me that there was just no viable way to do it. And now with options like this, I'm like, oh, I can multi-class.
Of course, the viable way to multi-class with a Solarian is to take the Solarian armor option instead, but...
But then you don't get the cool energy sword, so...
No, but you then do get more AC than any version of your character without that would have had.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wearing light armor and not heavy armor, it's fine.
It's true. Fair enough.
This is cool, and it's my favorite thing. And I really liked a lot of the things. There's a bunch of really great stuff in here with the Mystic to really modify exactly how that spellcaster works and what they look like. And I don't know, there's just a lot of fun abilities, so...
I was super excited that Owen let me write a connection that was associated with Azathoth in this section.
I saw that. It's a music one. It's really weird.
Yeah,
no,
new
because
connections.
Because the Mad Sultan sings the Song of the Spheres, James.
Sure does.
Of course. How could I not have known that?
Listen, I spent the last 2 years running Strange Aeons. I know things that are unknowable and should not be known by mortal minds.
Well, then you
And I
probably
spent
shouldn't...
the last two...
Don't share it with us, because I don't want the King in Yellow after me, okay?
That's fair. I was really excited about this section because this was one that Owen was like, you need to give me alternate class features for the Mystic, make it work. And I was like, and like, so it was literally the first thing I did because I was afraid it would take me the longest. And then I was like trying to find a name because I was like, oh, I'll do, it's Mystic is kind of like Oracle. I'll do Revelate. Oh, I can't. That's a Solarian. And so like, I just spent like literally an hour trying to figure out a name, and I came across Epiphany, and I was like, Pathfinders never use this. Pathfinders never use this.
You mean you had an epiphany?
I had an epiphany to use Epiphany. Yes.
To use Epiphany.
Lightning struck your brain.
Call out the Secret Gamer Girl. She says, I also get to play up my Magical Girl transformations with these options. Absolutely. I'm just like, It's going to be so crazy.
I think my favorite epiphany is actually guided reincarnation. I like a reincarnate that is like controlled, is a good way to put it. And I think as a 15th level mystic ability, it's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
Although
nice.
I will note, Alex, that you amongst Starfinder people at Paizo, it was beginning to be the case that anytime they're like, "Oh, is this a shape shifting option? Did Alex write this?"
That's funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's fine. They're allowed to get my subtle but not subtle hints.
No, I really like this because at higher levels, death happens, especially even in Starfinder. As higher you go, you might just get wiped out by something horrific. And especially if you've been playing a long-term campaign, you don't want to have to start over the new character. Maybe reincarnate's your only option or your only good option. Something like this is kind of fun because then you're not stuck with like, yes, I had this big tough Vesk and now I'm a contemplative. Wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why am I a soldier? It really lets you sort of guide parts of it, and I think that's good. I think it's cool.
I also think it's nice for story purposes. This exists, and therefore game masters can say, well, this happened because, and maybe this is a third level game, but this person happened to be around when there was a 15th level mystic, and they went through guided reincarnation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Opens up more story options. Love it.
Yes.
Another connection, Warmonger, is great if you want to be the super warlike beat 'em up mystic, which is cool. We're not all just, making little wreaths out of flowers and singing rainbow songs. Like sometimes you just got to get down to it.
My favorite part about the Warmonger is suit up and mass suit up. I love the image of like a mystic being out in the battlefield with their allies. Everyone's beaten, bloodied, and the enemies are coming, and the mystic's like, "Time to suit up!" And they raise their hand, and everyone just gets magic armor, and like, ah! It's so cool.
It's really neat.
Literally half of the things I wrote in this book, I was like, what would look really cool at the start of an encounter? This.
I think that's why I like a lot of the things you design, because I have a very like cinematic mind. I actually have a film background, and so a lot of the times if I'm at the table or I'm writing an adventure or whatever I'm doing, it's always like, what would look cool? What do I want to like film and imagine we're watching the movie of? Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely, very cool. Any last thoughts on the Mystic?
Nope, I said them.
We're gonna sneak on over to the operative, which is next, and they also get some cool class features, including the stunts, which I remember you saying something about you were afraid that operative players would be afraid that you're taking away their trick attack.
Yeah, and it turns out that I've been reading the forums, and like a lot of people really like them. I was like, oh, this is great. I'm glad you guys like them, because I was really nervous about them. The idea behind stunts is that it's a way for the operative to use their skills in combat for more than just damage. It's like a more cinematic flair, like, oh, I'm using my acrobatics to quickly just leap myself up in the air, or I'm trying to like jump across all this difficult terrain. Because I can't tell you the number of times I see people who are like, can I use acrobatics to like jump across the rubble on the ground? And I'm like, if you roll a 50,
Like, that's a lot of rubble.
Yeah, that's a lot of rubble. I also think that like when I think of operative, I think of I can't think of what his name is. I think his name is Crumbopulous Michael from Rick and Morty. Oh, here I go a-killing. And so that's where Marked for Death came from.
If you turn to page 81.
Yeah. Oh, it's Crumbopulous Michael.
I'm not saying it is, but
no, it's canon. It's Alex Cannon. That's Crumbopulous Michael. I love it. So great. So, and then you also just like, there are a lot of trades for I think I wrote more alternate class features for the operative than anybody else, because there was just so much stuff to trade with the operative. Like there was a lot of weird things that I could do. One of my favorites is Operative's Arsenal, where you literally just get rid of Trick Attack and Quad Attack and get new weapons. It's like, oh, that's super cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a neat way to do it. Triple and quad obviously are really great abilities, but so is if you're playing a game where the types of damage that you do matter, then being able to, swap out weapons and stuff is super useful.
In the immortal words of James, all you need is gun.
All you need is gun.
All you need is gun.
That's all you need.
All right, cool. Yeah, there's a ton of great options in here that look like a lot of fun to play. I like that one's made after my favorite audio editing software, Audacity. So that's always good. Lots of good stuff to look at. Next up, we have the Solarian. Solarian has some really cool new manifestations they can use, such as Solar Shield and Solar Flare, which is cool. I love the idea now that we've added like shield mechanics and we started really playing around with that you're like, I got the armor, I got the weapon. Nope, I'm going to take a shield. I think that's really cool.
The cool thing is you could have them both with the new alternate class feature, Extra Manifestation.
Yeah, that is really neat.
Oh, and then it's like every game of Rainbow Six Siege you've ever played.
I'm so excited.
Also, a neat thing about the solar flare is even though it's a one-handed weapon, and you get full weapon specialization with it, so you're going to hit like a truck with it.
Yeah, it's great. You're going to blow them up. And I think you can apply all Solarian crystals, and I think the only thing that doesn't work is Soulfire, right? Because Soulfire specifically calls out melee weapons.
Yeah, I think there might be one other that's only melee, but yeah, it's pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
Now, there's a good point in chat. Uchujin51 asks, so Solarian, 3 of the 4 manifestations can use solar crystals. Why not armor?
Armor's already too good.
There you go.
So the point of Solarian crystals, is to force the Solarian to spend money. So the Solarian's weapon is automatically upgrading as he goes, but if he wants to stay on the same damage arc as the soldier, he must upgrade his weapon with Solarian crystals. So instead of buying new weapons, he's buying crystals. With Solarian armor, you're getting a flat bonus no matter what, but you're going to have to upgrade your armor anyway. That bonus never becomes irrelevant. It is always important. It is always a percentage reduction to the damage you take, and it will stack with pretty much anything that you are likely to get. That is not quite as true with comm as it used to be, but all of the standard options, your armor bonus sits on top of, but you have to spend money to buy new armor anyway, because it is in addition to your light armor. So if we required you to get Solarian weapon crystals, or any kind of Solarian crystal, then you would have less money for other equipment than a standard character. And at that point, you have to buy a weapon. And it already has the same overall bonus to your character's effectiveness without it. So we built it to be the option that was always effective and didn't require an additional piece of equipment. With the other options, they've got the same problem. If we want to force you to continue to spend that money so that you don't have more money on other gear than everyone else, or less money on other gear than everyone else, it needs to follow a specific paradigm. That's one of the hidden design elements of Starfinder.
All right, that's cool. Well, quick idea off the top of my head. Solarian armor crystal that gives you the effects of armor instead of wearing armor. So you're still buying new crystals, but instead of saying, I'm wearing this light armor, +1, you can be like, I'm not wearing armor except for, hey.
That's just armor with different special effects.
It's a choice.
Well, sure, but do you really want us to take do you really want them to take up room in a book to say, here is a different shape of 20 levels of different options? Or would you like a really brand new option that does something new and different? Because a GM should be perfectly capable of saying, your light armor can be a Solarian armor crystal, and it works exactly like the light armor. It takes the same amount of effort to put on. Its life support lasts just as long.
I know.
It's the same reason that in Pathfinder, we never did Lightning Ball and Ice Ball, right? Fireball, changing that from fire to another element isn't enough to justify taking up the space in a rulebook.
Okay, you convinced me.
I mean, one thing that could be done is if Solarian armor crystals were designed almost like special armor upgrades that were only available to the Solarian. But at that point, you're not using the same crystals that already exist in the game, where all of these other ones use the same type of crystal. It's not requiring them to add a new type of equipment, which I guess has its benefits and its downsides as well.
And we already have a whole type of equipment that one class can use. So whenever we're putting that into the game, we're saying this is just for Solarians. If you're playing any other class, none of this is for you.
None of this matters. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I guess
I was going to say that's a lot of what the Solarian gets. Extra manifestation at 9th level or higher. Trade it at Zenith Revelation and get 2 manifestations. Super cool. A couple new options of manifestations. And then like a lot of the other classes, lots of additional options for your revelations. Any that you specifically want to call out?
There's like 24 of them. There's a lot.
Yeah,
Right.
there's
That's
a
why I don't
ton.
want to dwell on
Uh,
too long. But if
okay,
there's any
cool.
ones that are like, I love that one.
So the best one is Agile Wavelengths because it allows you to do combat maneuvers at ranged. And when you're
Yeah.
attuned, you get a bonus to it.
And
Yeah.
what's really great about that one is that it's a graviton, a low-level graviton revelation, and graviton kind of has problems with having just kind of generally cool revelations at low levels. It's got some amazing ones, like when you get to like I think 6 is where they start getting really cool. But like the low-level ones for Photon is like, hey, I'm adding damage to my weapon. I'm stellar rushing. Stellar rush is incredible, and
It's amazing.
I feel like this is the first graviton revelation that's like, hold my beer, Stellar Rush.
Right. Yeah, it's going to give it a run in for its money because
Yeah.
that being able to suck people's weapons out of their hands so they can't keep shooting at you, that's gold.
Yo, James, you want to tell the Dead Son story?
Oh, just real quick. I had a
long as it's
character. I had a character, Solarian, armor Solarian, in my games who would just steal weapons. So she decided to do that against a boss who she didn't know was a vampire and more dangerous without the weapon. So it was hilarious when she threw threw that person's weapon into a volcano, and it was like, "There's no way you can kill me," and then proceeded to rip her to shreds.
Ooh,
It's great.
it's hubris for you, folks.
All right. So speaking of getting ripped to shreds, Soldier.
Oh no!
Nice segue, Alex.
I'm really good at segues.
Yes, apparently.
I'm also really good at soldiers because I wrote this section.
Oh, okay. Well, the aesthetic warrior is super fun. It definitely got me thinking about those monk type characters. I'm like, yes, I can take aesthetic warrior and just go punch things with my soldier. Perfect.
Yes.
So that's really great. Lots of really good feat boosts. This is a new thing. Why don't you tell us about what you were thinking on feat boosts?
So the idea behind feat boost is like, wow, soldiers get more feats than anybody else in the game, but they're not actually better than them. They just have more. So the idea behind feat boost is that you can take a feat and make it better than what anyone else could get. You have things like bodyguard vigilance, which takes bodyguard and lets you use it multiple times at the same turn by spending more resolve. So you just be like, I'm gonna protect everybody. It's really I really like that one. There are things like, hey, when you cleave, you don't take the penalty to your armor class. It's just generally really useful abilities that make the soldier really stand out.
Yeah, I thought they were really cool because then it's like, all right, the soldier already gets 1,000,000 feats, fine. And I know one of the critiques that I've heard a lot about the soldier is that at a certain point, none of the feats start sounding interesting. Now you add in these feat boosts, and it's like, well, that feat was okay, but if I also have the boost, it's really, really fun. And you go, okay, now I want to get it. And I like that.
I also hope that with the additional feats we have added to the game since the core rulebook, people are more likely to find feats that sound exciting and interesting.
Well, yes.
There are 71
I
in this
hope.
book.
Yes.
71. I counted. Also, speaking of things, there's special ops, which is basically if you want to play a fighter who is a special ops specialist, it gives you a skill bonus, that insight bonus that we were talking about. You can do it to stealth if you want to be like a stealth ops. You can do it to athletics. One of the things that was really frustrating to me is like I wanted to be super great at like being buff and strong, and I actually like if you have a strength based operative, I could not equal them. They were automatically going to be stronger than me. So if you want to take these special ops, you can be the strongest fighter that you know.
Crypto 76 wants to know, does the 71 feats include the ones from the race section?
Nope, that's the feat section.
Fantastic.
I did not count the ones from the race section.
Very cool. Yeah, lots and
speaking
lots of options.
Speaking about things I didn't count from the race section, fighting styles. There are 3 in this one. Yeah, there are like 3 or 4 fighting styles in the race section in addition to these 3. I'm glad that they exist in the other sections because those fighting styles are very unique to Starfinder. Where my fighting styles, I was like, what if you want to play a Pathfinder barbarian in Starfinder?
What if you want to be a slayer?
Yeah. So obviously it's not the same thing. It's very it's a Starfinder take on the concept, but using the Chi warrior, the Wrathful warrior, and the hunter, you can kind of hit ranger, barbarian, and monk pretty close.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I definitely saw that between the aesthetic warrior options and the key adept fighting styles, you can very much make a very monk-feeling character out of the soldier now, in addition to having the vanguard as well. So you've got a lot of different options for going that way. I'm all
And
about it.
they feel very different. The Vanguard feels like that awesome Jedi monk in Star Wars,
Mhm.
the Force Awakens, or not the Force Awakens, Rogue One,
Mhm.
and where the Key Warrior, I literally was like, Dragon Ball Z sounds pretty cool right about now.
Right, right. Some interesting new gear boosts, including Finesse Striker. If you want to be that soldier that's using a lot of operative weapons to use your dex, you can now add half your soldier level to damage and keep that damage up, so it's competitive with a full strength build, which is really exciting.
Definitely.
Bunch, there's a few little gear boosts in there. In addition to all this other new stuff. So yeah, soldiers even just got really expanded, which is fantastic. Moving on, we got Technomancers. Lots of cool new class features in there, which I think is pretty cool. Did you write the section 2?
I did. This is my 5th. This is the final one. Sorry. Yeah, so with this one of the things I really wanted to try was changing like the spells that you could put into your spell cache. And that's where like cache hacks came from, where you could just be like, I'm gonna change my cache so that I could put weird things in it. And I just like had so much fun coming up with these. It was great. I love that Devastators lets you be like, I'm just gonna put magic missiles in here whenever I need them. Magic missiles just popping out of your hand. Gene Hacker is really cool. When I heard the name Biohacker, I assumed that it would be hacking living creatures, which means shapeshifting, and it wasn't. So I was like, Gene Hacker, Capacitor, do it. There's also cache augmentations that allow you to basically spend your spells to enhance some of your rolls.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a hack capacitor that allows you. I'm trying to reread this one quick because this one was really complicated. You lets you. It's adaptive fighting style, but for magic hacks. It lets you have a couple that you just swap around. So I like the idea of hacking your own hacks so that you have the hackiest hack you need for any hack at any time.
All right, so if you
We
say
heard
hack
you like
one more
hacks, so we
time,
put some hacks in your hacks.
seriously,
We heard you liked hacking, so we hacked your hacks.
I'm just gonna ban that word from the rest of the show.
You got it.
It's been
Hacks.
overused. No.
That really hacks me off.
I I'm sorry, Owen. I stole a great idea from you. So I wrote a spell in back in Pack Worlds where like the spell lowered the target's strength, and I had a name for it, and it wasn't great. Owen's like direct denial of strength. I was like, that's amazing. And so this book came around. I was like, I see your direct denial of strength, Owen, and I raise you direct denial of shape changing, and so that was fun. I like that one.
That's really fun. Jacob Blackman actually has a question. Do Technomancers now get more enhancement spells to be able to hack technological constructs? That's more in the spell section, but we can look at that now.
Yeah.
Are there more options for that sort of ability?
I don't think so. I think the core Technomancer uses spells to do that, and it kind of falls back to what Owen was saying about the power of a spell limits the power of a class feature. So I can't really do you can't really do a whole lot with hacking constructs as class features
Sure.
because you hack them with that spell.
So I think what he's talking about is that there is already in the core rulebook a Technomancer ability that allows you to affect constructs with enchantment spells, but Technomancers don't really have enchantment spells
I
on
see.
their spell list that would make that ability of any particular use.
I didn't write spells. Sorry, guys.
Okay. So yeah, we'll get to that again when we get to the spell section. But yeah, the Technomancer also some good options. I did want to sort of move right along. We have lots of other archetypes to look at, including some fun ones like the Android Abolitionist. I've known a bunch of players that have this sort of concept to their character, so it's really fun that there is now an actual archetype they can take that really feeds into that theme. Some other cool ones. What are some of your favorites?
Medic. Shivi's taking it. Done.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Oh, I loved it. I saw it and I was like it's got this great ability where I think it's like the second level ability where you're like, hey, if I overheal you, all the extra overhealing to your hit points goes to your stamina. I'm like, this is all I wanted. This is great. Thank you, archetype. You made my day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Medic
nothing's
was my
wasted.
favorite.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than being like, oh, I'm 20 points into hit points. You're like, great, I healed you 25. Well, those 5 are wasted. It's like, well,
Yeah. No, I heal your stamina now. It's
right.
gonna be great.
Yeah, definitely. And I think doing it in such a way that doesn't step on the unvoiced toes. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Definitely.
so that's really cool. I just like the flavor of a lot of these. Like just the fixer character, because that's a big uh, sci-fi type trope. So in a sci fantasy world, like having a fixer character is pretty cool. There's
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of neat ones. Instructor is near and dear to
I
my heart because my wife is an academic. So now I can build
Well,
her
and
in
this
Starfinder.
this whole section is another place where we wanted to show that there were really different things we could do with archetypes than what we had done before.
Mhm.
mm,
So, for example, we have archetypes that the swap outs are optional.
Mhm.
And we thought that was really important because that means that you can take it and not lose some class feature you really, really want. Um, we have some that are only at high level, which we hadn't done previously, and I think are worth adding to the game. So we've been learning with this universal archetype. And again, the reason we went
Mhm.
with universal archetypes in Starfinder with the core rule is that we wanted to not anytime we put an archetype in the game only be talking to people that played one class, right? In first edition Pathfinder, if there's an archetype, it's a fighter archetype, and if you are not playing a fighter, it is of no use to you.
Mhm.
Which also means that if we want a pirate archetype, we have to have one for swashbucklers and one for fighters and one for pirate monks and one for pirate wizards.
mm-hmm.
But there are some challenges with making these universal archetypes, and I hope that we have started to zero in on what people want to see and how they want them to work with some new options that came out in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
I
Good.
think that one of the. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry,
No,
Vanessa.
no, no, it's fine.
I was going to say that I think one of the archetypes that exemplifies this the best is the esotericist, which has like a giant list of alternate class features, and all of them are optional. And you pick what you want whenever you gain an ability you choose to swap. It's so in depth. I love it.
And it, of course, is the 2-page one, so
Yes.
it takes more
Mhm.
space. But
Mm.
yeah, I very much like how that came together.
I think the
Yeah.
battle flower is pretty cool too. I've heard a lot of people say they like it.
Well, and the Battle Flower was a favorite of Rob G. McCreary, our creative director. So he actually freelance wrote that,
Mm.
Mhm.
and then I developed it. So that's something that's directly from what he wanted in this game.
Is that a Triaxian as the battle flower?
I believe it is. Yes.
That's so cool. I think he's the only non-core character in the book's art then, right? I don't think there are Skittermanders or anything. I'm gonna say that that's accurate, but hopefully someone in chat can
I was about to
comment on
say
that.
I have not carefully checked everything, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I just thought that
Oh,
was really cool.
that is cool. Yeah.
Did you see any archetypes you like, James?
The medic was my favorite because it's just pertinent to the group that I was, that I generally play with.
But James, powered armor jockey.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't get to play a lot of powered armor or soldiers.
Powered
I
Yeah,
have
armor
to
but
is
if you
protect all
tough
my
slap
to do.
nerds.
slap powered armor jockey on your experimental armor mechanic, and
Mhm.
That's
You
an
should look.
idea.
You should look at it. It might be. And you don't have to take
Yeah,
your first ability till 6th level. You have plenty of
yeah.
time to worry about it.
That's true. We'll probably be done with the adventure path by then, so don't worry about
Oh
it.
gosh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, no,
Uh
no,
huh.
it's too quick. But you know it's not too quick. 71 pages of feats in our next section.
71 pages of
No,
feats.
71 feats over 11 pages. My bad. I got those mixed up. I was too excited about my transition.
I
yeah,
was
11
I was
pages over
about to
71 feet would.
I was gonna scold you. I'm like, these are some ridiculous feats. How long are these things? And then
All of
it's
them.
really cool because then you can jump behind the enemy. And no, we're cutting all those words. We can't do that. But yeah, 71 feats over 11 pages. It is dense. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. Some of it is not as exciting but very useful, such as the Eldritch lore line that just gives you extra spell knowns. Not exciting, but super useful.
That's-
And then
yeah.
there's other ones that are like super exciting that are just like a lot of fun.
Or like one's called lung puncture.
Like lung puncture.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people on the forums who love protective fur just because, according to their reading of the feat, it makes their fluffy character fluffier.
Great.
Because it says you have thick fur, so that is the consensus on the forums. That it does something like it does something about like heat and cold dangers and against poison, but no, it's the feet that makes you fluffier.
There's also like 4 feats dedicated to being better with grenades, including making craters with them and other explosives. So
That's amazing. I
big
love
up,
Really cool.
big ups.
So-
I love movement abilities, so I saw Jet Charge, and that was like the first one I looked at. You literally just go, "Oh, I'm going to charge you, and I will enhance it with my jetpack." That's in like every sci-fi thing ever. Awesome.
Yeah, break off the limiters.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
My favorite feat in the entire section is laugh at danger.
Ha ha ha.
It's got a con minimum, and when you take hit point damage from a significant enemy that doesn't reduce you to 0 hit points, you can grant allies within 30 feet a plus more morale bonus to AC until the end of your next turn.
+2. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. You have to be shot, but you're the guy who's going, I have it's what Vanessa said, right? I have way more hit points than that.
Yeah.
Shoku would definitely have taken that if we had not won that adventure path.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's your all might feat right there.
Well, especially if you get bodyguard too, right? Because then you can. Well, I guess bodyguard's also a reaction. How would that work? I guess you have to get shot like.
You only get one reaction. That's how that works.
That's how that
You
works.
go Vanguard and you get multiple reactions.
Well, there you go. So the Vanguard with
yes.
multiple reactions is
and
like.
Vanguards very much want both bodyguard and laugh at danger.
So there you go. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
I think the feat that's the biggest game changer in this book, and you guys might not agree with me, but I think it's Spell Feint. Spell Feint lets you, when you feint someone, instead of making them flat-footed, you give them a -1 penalty to their saves against your spells. And I think that Starfinder's saving throw math is very, very tight, and this is the first time we've seen an ability that really lets you be like, no, I'm getting you with that fireball.
Yeah, it's only a 5% swing, but hey, 5% is 5%. And
5%
like you were saying,
5% in a game where the only other swing is spell focus is like,
yeah, unless you can
Well, the other swing obviously is getting an augmentation to bring up your key ability score.
that's true.
but that's already
intimidating
sort
them.
of worked into the math anyway.
Oh yeah, everything's worked into the math.
Everything's worked into the math.
The long, complex math.
I can just imagine you slapping on a car hood. This baby's full of so much math. So
much
good.
math.
This baby's full of so much math.
You can fit 10,000 calculations into this game.
Oh god.
I love that the superhero fall is also a feat, the 3-point stance.
Yeah.
As long as you have one hand free, not being used to wield a weapon or anything, you take 1d6 less damage from falls and do not fall prone.
So you still break your ankles, but
It is the superhero drop, right? One of the things that happens in games that sometimes annoy players, and I'm pretty sure I wrote this feat in development. I don't think this was from a turnover. Is that characters are like, well, there's a fight down there. I need to get to it, so I'll just drop down to them. Oh, well, you took damage, so you fall prone. Just it. That's it. You fall prone. And then you have to, even if it's not an issue of taking time to get up from prone, that does not look and feel heroic. So
I'll jump down and save you. Splat.
So less damage is important. That means that it's useful in that regard. Don't fall prone is an action economy.
Sure.
And you also get a +2 bonus to your KAC against grapple and trip attacks when you have a free hand all the time. So it is helpful in more than just that really limited, narrow circumstance. But yeah, that is the feat for jumping down and doing the superhero landing. Because it looks cool. So we wanted to have game mechanical effects.
Yeah, and if you're a soldier with feats to burn, like, this is definitely a good one. I would take it. I know a lot of my heroic type characters, like, for example, in the Pathfinder system, I always get catfall boots because you always land on your feet and take minimum damage. And that means I always know that when we're climbing down something like a super long ladder to the guys at the bottom, I'm just going to go last. Because if a fight breaks out, my first act in initiative is drop to the bottom. But it's 80 feet down. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll take 8 damage. I'm on my feet, and now I get to do cool stuff. Superhero move.
The superhero shoes.
Fantastic.
But
Speaking of cool shoes,
Yeah. Oh, that was a really good transition.
the next section is equipment. There's mostly just things I think in here to support the new classes and their concepts, such as a million different injection weapons, shields, things of that nature.
and punch guns.
And punch guns.
Go ahead, Owen.
The exception to that is there are also capture pulls, which aren't really there to support any of the specific classes, but are something that people kept asking for in various games.
Yeah.
So we thought, as long as we've got room, let's put in capture pulls.
So I didn't do capture pulls, but I did most of the other weapons in this section. And the gun that James is referring to is the Cestus pistols. So at the time I was writing this, James and I were watching Durarara, And one of the common elements in Durarara is this gun that one of the characters uses, where it's a pistol on your hand, but it only works by punching them, because punching them, the shock causes like the barrel to push forward. It shoots the guns out. And so James and I were like, "But this can't possibly be a real gun." And then not only does it turn out to be a real gun, but it was originally developed and manufactured in our home city of Philadelphia.
Oh my
I
So
didn't know that part, but I did know it was a real gun.
yeah, it was the original prototype was manufactured like in the harbor in South Philly. Yeah.
Wow, what a place to get a punch gun.
So, are you not surprised though? It's our city, James.
No, I'm not.
So I made this entire new type of gun, and it came down like I was like, well, I need rules for like a gun that is only fired at melee range. And I was like, I'm sitting there trying to like research how to word it, and like if there was any like official term for it, and there wasn't, because it's such an esoteric weapon. And I was like, fine, let's see if Owen likes this. Punch gun. And yeah, apparently it was okay.
Apparently it was okay.
Well, I mean, I think it is indicative of the fact that we created a new melee focused character class, right? The Vanguard is you don't have to be, but it clearly speaks to melee focus. And I think some more melee weapons, even if they are melee weapons using ranged ammunition, were part of that thematic support Vanessa was talking about.
Yeah. Well, the original one, I actually wrote the one that was like injector needles, so you punch someone to inject them first. And then I was like, well, wait, what if you just want to put bullets in there? You should be able to just put bullets in there. Right?
What if I want to inject bullets?
But yeah, so there are other items in this section too. This is where all the cool shields are. Oh, and can you tell us if shields have changed any since the playtest?
There has been some polish, and I don't think we had night shields in the playtest, did we? Weren't we just doing riot shields and tactical shields?
I think so.
Yeah.
So night shields are sort of a middle ground, and that's
But no day
new.
shields.
But no day shields.
Okay.
No. If you're a vampire, that's called an umbrella.
Okay. Really good umbrella. And of course, finishing out this chapter, we have extra serums, medicinals, poisons, things to really give even more options to those medicine-y sort of focused characters like a biohacker.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of good support stuff in there for all these new classes. We move, of course, next to spells, which has to support the Witch Warper, and also some great options for existing spellcasters.
Oh, there's some great ones. I love so many of them.
It's a giant list, so why don't we just call out some of our favorite ones that we saw in here that were like, yeah, that one's cool.
Commune with planet. Because all I can think of is World of Warcraft. That's you? All I can think of is World of Warcraft with the Heart of Azeroth, talking to Azeroth with the magic amulet. I love it.
I got a lot from the Commune with Nature spells from Pathfinder 1, thinking like, I really like the idea of like a druid character in those, communing with nature around them and learning information. And I thought, well, if you have this big celestial setting where you're flying around the cosmos, how awesome is it to go up and be like, I will talk to the planet and I will learn things. Wait, what? No, I got this.
Did you do Haunted Armor?
I also did Haunted Armor.
That one is great. Also, you got art, and the fact that this guy is freaking out because there's a ghost in his armor is amazing.
Oh gosh, hold on. I gotta show everyone. Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
You're like, yeah, there's a ghost in your armor messing stuff up. One of the things I ended up doing is adding a lot of these necromancy sort of let's play around with spirits some more, because there's really not a lot of that in core. And I'm like, if I want to play just that creepy character that summons ghosts and stuff all the time, how can I do that? And so there's a lot of ghosty things that if it's ghosty and creepy, I probably wrote it in there.
I'm sure our friend Robin will thank you in the near future.
Oh, good. Okay. I like it.
She is all about the ghosty creepy.
Oh, fantastic.
I really like, so like one thing that I thought was really funny is like prescience is in this game, which in Pathfinder, prescience is like this amazingly powerful 9th level spell. And in this game, it is a 3rd level Witch Warper spell that is awesome. But I kind of got a chuckle out of it being going from 9th to 3rd. But it's a really great spell. You like it's almost like telekinesis in that like you just pick terrible things to do to people. And I love a good spell that does terrible things to people.
Well, and I like a good spell that has a lot of different options because, once again, when I play Spellcaster, I'm looking at how to affect the battlefield. And because your spells known are so limited in Starfinder, sometimes you really need to make ones that are like, I'm going to use this all the time. When you have all these different options, now I know I get to use it all the time because it's not just one spell, it's a list of spells in one. And that is gold.
Definitely, I agree. Also, like some of the names of these spells are so evocative, like slice reality. Like, how scary is that to be told? Oh, you identified the spell that's being cast on you. Slice reality. Oh God.
Oh, we also got No Coordinates, our Shadow podcast.
Oh God, seriously. Oh man, if this book came out sooner, man, we would definitely be no coordinates
No
instead
coordinates.
of no direction.
Yeah, yeah. I do like nanite form because it's gaseous form, but it works.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is a scathing comment, but accurate.
Gaseous form is terrible. It turns you into a fart that's easily killable by any other character with class levels.
Oh my god.
It's not a crit spell.
Okay.
But this spell, nanite form, very good.
Go
I
ahead,
am
Owen.
personally a huge fan of optimized technology, which is not a combat spell necessarily, but it's a second level technomancer spell that allows you to affect any one item of up to 1 bulk per level or one technological vehicle or construct of any size. And you make it immune to corrosive atmospheres, water, heat, radiation, and other natural environmental dangers. So that is the technomancer. No, it's fine. Get in the buggy with the plastic top. We are going to drive through the hellscape. Right. It doesn't. I don't care that we're near the sun. Whatever. We are going to just drive out there, and I will keep this from falling apart. And it lasts an hour per level.
So Mitsuko Hane needs that, please.
Yeah.
Bus that we have literally bypassed encounters with. There was one encounter that was supposed to be hard because you're supposed to walk across an icy field, and we just drove across in the tour bus.
Hover
There you
bus.
Cover bus.
Yeah. So some of my favorites, Starstorm. Not only is it an amazingly powerful AOE for the Mystic and the Witch Warper, but the name is Starstorm. How is that not incredible? Transfer consciousness is so cool. I love the ability to take your brain out and put it in a computer. And Usher Apocalypse. Love the names in this book. Usher Apocalypse. I want to get to 18th level or whatever it is. I need to cast a 6th level spell so I can just say, yeah, James, that dragon, Usher Apocalypse.
So cool. God. Also, Spirit Bound Computer, where you just take a soul and you just go, get in the computer, do my math, help. I'm bad.
I wrote that one because I really wanted like mystics who have no technological ability whatsoever to have something to do with technology. So you run into a computer and you're like, well, I'm a mystic and I'm doing this other thing, and all of a sudden I guess the technomancer or the one of the hacker types should have been over here. I summon a ghost. Ghost, do the computer thing.
Time to put
And
the
it's the
ghost
ghost in the machine.
Boom,
It does.
up high.
You
Jinx.
pull out your comm unit. Hey, Pharasma, I need you to send me back a nerd so I can do that. Oh my gosh. All right. So other rules, chapter 6, the final chapter of this book. Who would like to talk about it?
Hold on, I'm getting to it.
Let me talk about starships for a little bit.
How about you go first? Yeah.
There was a big debate as to whether starships should go in this or go in the newly announced Starship Operations Manual, which we knew was coming, but we had not yet announced. And I strongly felt that one of the things that we'd gotten feedback on was that while most people really do seem to like Starship combat in Starfinder, there were a few things in some game environments for everyone to always have a good time. And one of those things was when we built the game, we were very much thinking in terms of 4 or 5 people who get together and play the same characters over and over and over time. So they will naturally find and evolve into roles as a group, which is great. But not everyone plays Starfinder that way. Sometimes everyone gets together and brings whatever character they've got available and they do a one-shot. And when you have something like that, or for that matter, organized play, you could have 4 or 5 people who all wanted to be the captain. And there's not really a good set of options for them to take if captain than they are. And some people don't worry about optimizing at all, or are only good at physical actions, or only good at supernatural actions. So I really pushed for, and some other people did too, putting in some new roles. So we ended up with the chief mate and with the magic officer, because we had a science officer, so that since the idea of the Starship rules was that characters can be useful and contribute to Starship combat without having had to specialize in that at all, we saw two broad sections of characters that were perfectly reasonable Starfinder characters that just had a hard time contributing, especially if more than one of them had social skills.
Mm-hmm.
And this was our solution. So these aren't mandatory. You don't have to have one, or your starship is at some sort of disadvantage. But they are things that allow characters to contribute with a different set of skills than been used previously, so that everyone can be involved. Because if you are just sitting in the background going, well, I guess I'm a gunner, let me know if anyone gets in my firing arc because I'm on a tertiary weapon, that's just not fun. And again, we want a fun game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been plenty of society games where you're playing, Bug Daddy, who's a mystic, is terrible at Starship combat, and when it comes up, you're like, I guess I'm the captain because it's the only one I have any skills for, but I'm terrible at it. And now you can be like, oh no, I'm just gonna be magic officer and kick butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, way better.
Because we want everyone to have a useful role to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good expansion of the Starship rules. So yeah, I think this is going to really change the way a lot of people feel about Starship combat, especially as it pertains to their characters that are like, I don't know, I'm a strength-based soldier who hits people with a giant weapon. My dex is terrible, even if I have a good base attack bonus. I guess I'm an okay gunner. No, now you can just run around and like rip panels off stuff so the engineer can get to it faster. Cool on you. Do that.
And then if none of that works, we have open crew actions and minor crew actions, so that there are things you can do even if you have found a new build that we have never considered before that does not apply any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think it's good too. Even if you're like, I generally do a science officer or something, and this round, I don't know what I'm going to do. Everyone's kind of got stuff covered. Now I have some extra options.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
So the final section of this book is downtime.
Yes.
I love it. It's
I
great.
need more of that in my life.
Yeah, we need more.
Well, that's the end of the show, folks. We're going to all enjoy some downtime.
So just like this guy, our new Vanguard's playing some video games. I love it.
Oh,
Now we
love
get to see what video games look like in Starfinder.
He's playing Super Saiyan Shih Tzus.
I do like the name the Convalesce, because I have a character named Convalescence, and it's based off that period of healing. But that's just a personal thing. But I do like it as an idea.
I like how all of them are things that are relevant, and I also like how lounging gives you like good benefits. It's like Starfinder is telling gamers, "Hey, practice good self-care. Do it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives
I
you-
mean, I am very happy that we have carouse as an option.
Hunt bargains.
I like crack technology where it's like, hey, sometimes you just can't break this safe. Bring it to your ship and break it. It's probably better than doing it when you're being shot at.
I mean, probably.
And inoculate, where you're just like, I'm going to go into the sewers and I know I'm going to get filth fever. No, I'm not going to do it.
Well, and a lot of these are things that you see people doing in downtime on television shows and movies, right? Maintaining equipment, lounging around, maintaining readiness. We realized we had built a game where we very specifically told people sometimes your character will have nothing to do because you're in a starship going through the drift for 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
What's your character doing during that time? Because we don't want to dwell on it, but we do want people to be like, well, I guess I stare at a wall.
Yeah, I'm
just,
gonna binge.
just a white wall.
I'm binging Eoxian soap operas for like the next 7 days, I guess.
I want to do what Quid is doing here. Look at him. He's lounging on his like great little bed. His robot he's got a coffee cup, pouring himself, reading his stories. It's great. This book generally has good art. I think that the 3 pictures we get in this final section are probably among the strongest because they paint a picture of the Starfinder universe that's just so indicative of being a future setting, but also being so relatable. It's like, yeah, I could totally see my character lounging on his space bed with a cup of tea, reading his stories on his tablet. Like that is great. And you're telling me now it's in this mechanical section where I get benefits for like reading my iPad for 5 days during this trip. This is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like, there's some more like, refit Starship and practice profession and stuff. Okay, but there's also I'm gonna work out. Like I'm just gonna like really exercise for a couple days. And okay,
Just
But
gonna
you're-
get jacked.
it's gonna get
Well, I mean,
jacked.
yeah, practice profession. Adapt to local customs and demand. Okay, that makes sense. We're gonna go here. We know what it's like. Let's look up and make sure that if there's a gesture that means everything's okay to us, it doesn't mean I want to put my thumb in your eye to the local people.
Right.
True.
I love that under practice profession, one of the samples is build your brand and network.
Yep.
Like
Mhm.
I know at least 4 characters in our society who would totally do that if they were playing a game where downtime was a thing in society.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is to me one of the most unexpected sections for me to really like. Like you see downtime,
Oh, I
you're
love
like,
it.
okay, some downtime rules, probably retrainings in there, sure, whatever. But it's like, no, this is like there's a lot of really interesting ideas and things in here that make me go, oh, well, okay.
So this section was developed by Joe Piscini, who's now the Starfinder lead designer. And I think one of the reasons he got the Starfinder lead designer role is, I mean, we assigned this, it got freelance written, the writer did a great job, but it took some strong development to make it as good as it was. And this is one of those places where if we have to start from scratch, we won't be this good. So in no way am I saying that we didn't get a good turnover,
Sure.
but Joe did a great job taking that turnover and polishing it to be something special because it started in such a strong place.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
So
Well,
good.
that's calm.
And
We
that's
did
it.
it. We broke down.
Hey,
the
you're
whole
skipping
book.
the index. There's an index.
Oh yeah,
There is an index, that is true.
it's,
Indexes are for nerds.
I am a nerd. I accept this. Yeah. So there's a beautiful index. It reminds me a lot of like the new style that you see in the Pathfinder Second Edition products,
Mhm.
which is great. I love it. It's a gorgeous index.
Yeah, it's not
There.
quite a glossary index. That would have been pretty sweet, but that's okay. It is an index. It's nice. It tells you where to go. And there's so much information in this book that it's actually really nice that it's in here.
Yeah.
Because you can quickly go, okay, I wanted that thing. Where is the grappler pull feet? Oh, yeah, 115. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's all right here. I don't know, I like it. I'm a fan.
Definitely. High quality stuff. Absolutely adore it. So that's the end of the book. Any final thoughts before we close out, James?
I was looking at some of the art real quick, and I think on page 153, I think that's a Demai. It could be a human, but it could be a Demai.
Let me say
I
one.
think it might be a human. But otherwise, I mean, a lot of things that I just about this book, and the biggest thing about any of these systems are their systems. So it's where your interactions take place. Like when Owen was mentioning taking that power
guy?
armor archetype on top of the armor mechanic.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, he's a Lashunta. He's the strong one. He's their iconic vanguard.
no, 135.
Oh, I thought you said 53. My bad. I got those numbers backwards.
But yeah, and so far I've enjoyed it from what I've done, and I can't wait to make it my Gabrati Technomancer. Or not Technomancer, Biohacker.
This one?
Sorry, it's late for me.
This one?
The girl with the
Yes.
fireworks.
Yes. Unsure.
I think she looks like she might be a Demai. I would accept that headcanon.
Bright,
I would-
bright.
I would actually guess that she's a gnome.
Yeah?
Yeah, proportions look a little more gnome-like. Also, bright colors.
Right.
But white hair, which is what I think of Demai.
Yeah, but this,
It could be bleaching. Yeah.
who knows?
Oh, maybe.
What an amazing game.
I
What an
love this
amazing
game.
game. One thing that I would be remiss to not mention, because it is news that was announced today, is one of the next big mechanical books. Now that we're sinking our teeth into these, we have the next thing to look forward to, which is the Starship Operations Manual, which was announced for July 2020. So everyone, get ready to starship up some stuff in about half a year.
8 months.
8 months.
And we will have to do a breakdown of that one as well as a review, because once again, people here on this stream wrote important parts of that book.
Yes. I'm also really looking forward to Near Space coming out. I think it's in January, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see Near Space. I want to, please tell me all about the Veskarium. I gotta know all the things.
You gotta know all the things.
Gotta know.
Gotta get
And
that
that's a lot of
AAA
people's
level.
reaction. I'm very excited to see how that book is received.
Yeah.
Very
All
cool.
right.
Do you have any final thoughts, Owen, Vanessa?
I
No?
do not,
Okay.
Owen.
So, the character operations manual is very obviously Starfinder teams looking over at the advanced player guide for first edition Pathfinder and saying, we need one of those.
Mhm.
It was one of the books that we did the most planning on when we were trying to figure out what classes to put in it. We were literally doing off-site brainstorms and just a lot of work went into the Biohacker, Vanguard, and Witchwarper. People on the team designed those, and different people developed them. And the people that designed them also got to like write the stories of introducing the iconics. It was a place where a lot of things had to come together in a very specific way, in a very tight time frame. And I'm not going to say short, right? We were actually given a fair amount of time to work on this book, but you never have enough time to work on a book like this. And there were some other projects that kept eating into that time. I am thrilled to have been the lead developer for this. And I honestly think maybe even more than the core rule book, this is going to be the thing that is going to cause people to play Starfinder in a way that has been impacted by the current design team. That myself and Joe and Amanda and Jason Keeley and Chris Sims, who's also no longer with the company, and I mean, even Thurston and Rob, who and Rob was writing rather than developing this one. But if you look at the authors on this product, you will see a list of some very talented people who put a lot of great ideas into it. I really think that this is the book where Starfinder comes into its own. One of the things that I constantly heard was, well, there just aren't enough options. It doesn't have enough different things compared to Pathfinder. And that's compared to Pathfinder, right, 7 years in, 8 years in, whatever. This is a real big expansion of what you can do in the Starfinder universe. So far, people seem to dig it, and I'm super excited to see how it's going to impact what people think of Starfinder as being.
That was beautiful, Owen.
Thank you. I'm passionate about this one.
And on that fantastic note, I just want to thank you all for joining us. If you would like to continue the discussion about COM and all the cool things, you can join us on our Discord. It is one of the most fantastic, non-toxic places to talk about tabletop role-playing games, specifically ones published by Paizo, such as Starfinder. So you can find that link on our website, nodirectionpodcast.com, as well as tons of great blog content that covers all of the sorts of different things out there. We've also got a link in chat if you're watching live for Discord. And I just want to have a huge thank you to our Patreons who give us support every month that let us do shows like this. So thanks, everyone, and good night. We will see you in several weeks.
Go beyond with no direction.
Go beyond with no direction.